Collection of attire. She had implored me, "Pray, assist me in setting this endeavor in motion. One evening, I shall repay you." I perused the contracts with due diligence, inscribed my name upon my business card for the event coordinator, and assured her of my vigilance regarding expenses. Yet, alas, the moment the funds were secured, I found myself excluded from the budgetary considerations. My name was conspicuously absent from the list of sponsors. My seat has been your presence. Thou art ever prone to excessive displays of emotion. They comported themselves as though the occurrence had never transpired. I remained silent, bearing the burden of it all, settled her debts, assisted her in seeking counsel, and lingered. For what purpose, pray tell? Thus, they would conspire to ridicule me in my absence? Thus, Quinn might exploit familial tribulations for the sake of content, whilst excluding me from the very kindness I extended. They never desired my restoration. They desired my utility. I have taken the liberty of suspending all their accounts. The connections I had established for unforeseen circumstances have been rendered void. The customary obligations of recurring payments, which I had been dutifully managing, have now come to an end. Quinn's party planner endeavored to execute a final charge, yet it was met with refusal. Yet, that was not the true turn of events. Alas, it was in the shape of a USB drive that I inadvertently let slip from my grasp upon the dessert table, where it found its resting place within. Recordings of Quinn extolling the art of his persuasion upon me. Images capturing my mother's meticulous strategizing on how to invoke a sense of obligation in me regarding the co-signing of a second mortgage. A most amusing recording of Aunt Melinda's laughter, wherein she declared that I would never possess a spine. One folder, pertaining to insurance, and a singular title. As my significance appears to be of little consequence, let us endeavor to render this widely known. Quinn's piercing cry rent the air, disrupting the harmonious strains that had previously filled the room. "You are quite the enigma, are you not? Pray, what have you been engaged in?" "What you have imparted to me," I remarked with a composed demeanor. "Steer the tale with deftness." Mother endeavored to hasten her approach. "Pray, Liam, I beseech you. Your ability to bring me joy has regrettably diminished." I interjected. One experiences the peculiar sensation that accompanies the moment when the beast of burden ceases to bear the weight of others' expectations. Troy, a name that evokes both grandeur and intrigue. Reticent. At long last. Melinda did declare me a traitor. I merely bestowed a gentle smile. "Excellent. At last, you have come to understand the sentiments that accompany such an experience." The caterers commenced the process of gathering their belongings. The music ceased, leaving an air of anticipation in its wake. One guest bestowed upon me a most agreeable gesture of approval. Another captured the entire affair for the amusement of the tick-tock audience. I did not take my leave in a fit of indignation. I strolled back to my hired conveyance, embracing the gentle embrace of the evening air. Neither vexed nor shattered, merely concluded. 3 days hence, Quinn did send me an email. Not to express regret, but rather to engage in a discourse of terms. I have taken the liberty of severing our communication. A missive from Mother has arrived. She expressed her regrets. Expressed her longing for her dear boy. I have yet to peruse the entirety of it. Perhaps, in the fullness of time, I shall find the occasion to do so. Yet, on this day, I find myself within the confines of my own abode. With all debts settled, financial matters in order, and a session of reflection arranged, tranquility is found in the most modest and serene manner. It is mine. Restoration does not arrive with grand displays of celebration. It does not make its presence known through grand departures or sensational occurrences. It arrives in diminutive shards. It was akin to that initial dawn when I arose without the frantic urge to grasp my phone, fretting over which bill might have been overlooked or what emotional crisis awaited my attention that day. It arrived amidst the stillness. True silence, devoid of the insipid weight of passive-aggressive sighs or the subtle entrapments of guilt-laden insinuations. Merely tranquil. My very own pulse. My very own breath. I found myself seated by the window of my modest abode that evening, a steaming cup of dark coffee cradled in one hand, whilst my phone lay in a state of repose, set to airplane mode. There were no missives from Quinn, no calls from Mother left unanswered, and no insincere contritions from Melinda, accompanied by her customary, "You know, we remain family, do we not?" as the subject line, only I. And for the first occasion in many a year, that sufficed. I shall not feign that it did not cause me pain. That would indeed be a falsehood, I exclaimed with fervor, not due to a sense of longing, but rather from the reluctant acknowledgment of the duration I had spent in lamentation for a kinship that was but a figment of my imagination. It is oft remarked that blood holds a greater weight than water, yet many neglect to recall the entirety of the saying. The bonds forged by choice and commitment surpass those of mere birthright. At times, those who are bound to you by the ties of blood may inflict the most profound injuries, not through physical means, but rather through the weight of their expectations and the subtle art of emotional manipulation masquerading as fidelity. In former times, I held the belief that to be the resilient one was a mark of distinction. Yet, it is a most languorous demise when one finds oneself perpetually serving as the safeguard for others, and not a soul takes heed of your descent. I found myself in a continual reverie regarding the flash drive I had so carelessly neglected to take with me. They likely hurried to obliterate the evidence, craft a more favorable narrative, remove their posts, sever connections with acquaintances, and exclude me from their circles. Yet, such efforts were of little consequence. That was never a matter of retribution. It was a matter of liberation. They constructed a semblance of my being, one intended solely for their service, and I set it ablaze. After the passage of 3 weeks, a missive from my mother graced my device. Merely a solitary line. I was quite unaware of the depth of your suffering. I beg your pardon. No artifice, no justifications, only sorrow, only earnest expressions. I found myself gazing at it for the better part of an hour. I chose to remain silent. Not that my affections were lacking, but rather that I found myself in need of a certain distance. Not a mere absence of sound, but rather a moment of contemplation to determine whether I wished to reconstruct what once was or to allow the remnants to remain undisturbed in their desolation. The act of forgiveness is indeed a curious phenomenon. It is often presumed that it signifies granting the other individual permission to proceed without concern. Yet, true forgiveness does not merely concern the liberation of another. It concerns the liberation of one's own spirit. It remains a matter of uncertainty whether I shall ever again find myself seated at a table in the company of Quinn. I find myself in a quandary, for the trust one once held for my mother in the innocence of my youth seems now a distant memory, perhaps never to be fully restored. Presenting her with soup in bed, under the impression that affection was synonymous with mending matters. Yet, I am assured of this truth. I harbor no resentment. I find myself wearied by the notion that my value is determined solely by the extent of my self-denial. Weary am I of affection that seems to meander solely in one direction, withering the instant I dare to seek a reciprocal gesture. Having recently resumed my excursions into the great outdoors, I find myself reflecting upon the years past when I relinquished such pursuits, for weekends were invariably consumed by familial duties. Having taken the momentous step of joining a gathering of gentlemen devoted to the exploration of their inner selves, I have also secured a lease for a new abode, wherein my name alone graces the utility bills. Furthermore, I have embarked upon the delightful endeavor of penning this narrative. It is but the commencement of a most intriguing journey. For the very first occasion in my existence, I find myself articulating my own sentiments, rather than those of others. It is not my intention to mend another. My focus lies solely upon myself. Perhaps there shall come a day when I shall unlock the threshold to a semblance of my kin who truly perceives my essence. Perhaps, in some future moment, they shall come to the door, not to solicit funds, but to utter the words, "We were mistaken." We stand prepared to embark upon a transformation. Yet, in the interim, I find myself acquiring the art of dining at my own table, raising a glass to my own achievements, and embracing the self that was nurtured prior to the lessons that urged me to diminish. If perchance you have found yourself in a similar predicament, as the one who offers sustenance, the arbiter of tranquility, the steadfast individual who receives naught in return, allow me to impart this sentiment. It is not an act of selfishness to withdraw oneself from the fray. It is not an act of cruelty to sever ties with those who seek your company solely in times of need. It is not an error to safeguard one's tranquility, even should it necessitate parting ways with those who have nurtured you. Should this resonate with your heart, I kindly invite you to subscribe and peruse my other tales that delve into the intricacies of familial treachery, the journey of emotional restoration, and the pursuit of tranquility amidst the complexities of conditional affection. For at times, to withdraw from a situation may indeed be the most courageous act one could ever undertake.
If you're so afraid of what I can do, but I wouldn't stick around if I were you, 'cause I'm about to change the game and forget we share the same last name. No, you can't press rewind, go back in time. Be there when I really need you. I give the credit where it's due, and I'm available to you. Born to serve, to heal, to save. He walked the road, the cross, the grave. The Father's plan fulfilled through pain, to raise the lost to life again. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. Majesty to you we sing. Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. On the hillside, bruised and torn, wore our shame, endured our scorn. By his blood the debt was paid. Through his wounds the way was made. Darkness trembled, stones were moved. Victory rose from empty tombs. Now forever he shall reign, the Lamb once slain, alive again. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. Majesty to you we sing. Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. And all of heaven lifts his name, with every tribe and tongue proclaim, worthy is the risen one. Salvation's work is fully done. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. Let Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus Here I am, on my knees again, with open hands, I lift my soul. All I have and all I am, I lay before your throne. Draw me closer, take me deeper, break the walls I've built within. Let your mercy flood my spirit, make me whole again. I surrender, I surrender. All my heart and all my will, I surrender, I surrender. Let your purpose be fulfilled. Take control, Lord, I am yours, now and evermore. I surrender. You have called me by my name. In your grace, I find my peace. Every burden, every fear, I lay down at your feet. You're my healer, you're my refuge, you're the fire that burned within. In your presence, I am resting, safe from every sin. I surrender, I surrender. All my heart and all my will, I surrender, I surrender. Let your purpose be fulfilled. Take control, Lord, I am yours, now and evermore. I surrender. All to you I give my life, every dream and every fight. Let your spirit have its way, guide my steps from day to day. I surrender, I surrender, holding nothing back from you. I surrender, I surrender. Lord, make all things new. Take control, Lord, I
Nutricare Hoa Kỳ phát triển thành công Nutricare Colors 24 giờ Grow Plus, cao năng lượng 100 kcal, được chứng minh lâm sàng, bé tăng cân sau 2 tháng. Sữa non 24 giờ từ Mỹ cùng 10 tỷ lợi khuẩn, canxi, D3 và 52 dưỡng chất giúp bé cao lớn vượt trội. Nutricare Colors 24 giờ Grow Plus, bé tăng cân cao khỏe.
I call the name that breaks through tears over every doubt, in every fight. Your name brings healing, hope and light. I speak Jesus over heart and soul, peace for the broken, strength for the low. Chains are falling, love has won. I speak Jesus till the morning.
Nathan is my name. I'm 29 years old, and until last Saturday, I really thought I was a good brother. The type that comes, stays quiet, helps out when required, and doesn't cause trouble. I didn't think people would clap.
Comes and peace will find.
Nathan is my name. I'm 29 years old, and until last Saturday, I really thought I was a good brother. The type that comes, stays quiet, helps out when required, and doesn't cause trouble. I didn't think people would clap for it. I just believed that's how families acted. Zoe and I used to be close. We weren't best friends, but she would still email me idiotic memes at 1 a.m. would call me when she needed help relocating or dealing with mom after one of her famous guilt trips. So, when she got engaged last year, I didn't think twice about offering to help pay for some of the wedding. She didn't say anything. I offered to help. She was under a lot of stress. The place was pricey, and her fiancé Jordan had just changed jobs. I remember saying, "I'll pay for the DJ and maybe some of the flowers or decorations, whatever you need." She cried on the phone, but I don't think it was because she was happy. Maybe it was simply because she was relieved. That week, I sent her $5,000. No questions asked. After that, I didn't hear much. It made sense that she become busier, getting ready for a wedding, starting a new career, and moving into a new house. I thought the quiet was just tension, but as time went on, little things started to feel off. She formed a group chat for the bridal party and close family, but I wasn't in it. She stated it was largely for the girls and laughed when I questioned about it. Then I saw that I wasn't mentioned in the Facebook post about our fantastic wedding support crew. There was no mention of me, not even in the comments. I didn't say anything about it. I didn't want to look needy. They might have just forgotten. It might not have been on purpose. After that, there was the rehearsal dinner. I got there on time, with a gift bag in hand, and wearing the precise business casual dress she told me to wear. Her prospective mother-in-law greeted me with a bewildered look and said, "You're Zoe's brother? Oh, I didn't think you were coming." It wasn't a very warm welcome, but I smiled, brushed it off, and sat down at the other end of the table, near the exit. I wasn't on the list. Jordan praised his parents, his groomsmen, his barber, and even his college companion from his sophomore year as the toast started. Zoe said thank you to her bridesmaids and her chosen family who have really been there for her. Not once did they mention me. I looked at the condensation on my glass of water and told myself it wasn't personal. I didn't have to be in the spotlight. I was there to help out. Everything fell apart on the day of the wedding. Zoe told me to get there early. I found myself in a state of neglect. I wore the fitted charcoal suit I were but a shadow particularly for the event and unacknowledged. The place was lovely. And when Eric bestowed his notice upon me, a huge garden, I found myself white chairs lined up in a perfect rows. At the entrance gate, a woman with a clipboard and an earpiece welcomed people. "What is your name?" she asked. I told her. She smiled sweetly, dug through a plastic tub, and gave me a bright orange bracelet. It looked like something you might find at a bowling alley or a nightclub that wasn't very good. I blinked at it. "What is this for?" She spoke in that boring customer service voice. "Guests who are simply going to the ceremony will get orange wristbands. Only anyone on the internal party list can get into the reception." I looked at her. I am the brother of the bride. She looked over her clipboard again. It says here that you're not on the list of those who can come in. Then she said something to make it less bad. But you have a terrific seat for the ceremony. I didn't know what to say. I believed there might have been a mistake. I might have overlooked a form. An RSVP that came in late. I moved out of the way and called Zoe. No response. I sent her a text. Hey, I just came here. They put a wristband on me. Can't I go into the reception? No answer. I'm still trying to be calm. I walked over to the area with the seats. Some folks saw my wristband. Some people looked at me with interest. Some people just smiled uncomfortably and didn't look you in the eye. I saw some guests wearing silver and purple bracelets. I thought those were the most essential ones. I observed Zoe's old yoga teacher talking to her hairstylist near the altar. They both had on silver. I knew this because they were laughing and snapping pictures of themselves. I felt like I had crashed my own family's party when I stood there. Then I heard the laugh. A tall lady named Kelsey, who was one of Zoe's bridesmaids and had always bothered me, went by with a champagne flute and remarked to someone behind her, "The wristbands are for non-essential guests." I could hear her just fine. You know, ceremony filler. She giggled. The man next to her also laughed. I gritted my teeth and turned aside. I wasn't going to create a fuss at my sister's wedding. I urged myself to breathe, get through it, and go discreetly after. But then I saw the table with the gifts. It was hidden next to the garden doors, which were already full of nicely wrapped gifts and shiny envelopes. It was easy to find my envelope. I bought a dark blue velvet one with a wax seal since I felt it would be exceptional. The check for $5,000 that I had written weeks ago was inside. I even wrote a little note by hand. I hope you both have fun, strength, and something loud to dance to. I don't know what got into me. My legs moved before I made up my mind. I walked directly to the table, took the envelope from the stack, and turned around. A few folks watched, not sure what to make of it. One woman grimaced as if she wanted to say something, but she didn't. I held the envelope out and spoke loudly enough for everyone around me to hear. At least this wasn't necessary either. Someone let out a gasp. Then I walked. I didn't hurry. I didn't run. I just marched straight down the aisle that I didn't deserve to be in. Through the silver and purple bands. I heard someone call my name once, then again louder, above the phony smiles and awkward staircases. Nathan. Nathan. It was Zoe. She was coming down the steps of the garden, her heels clicking on the stone. She caught up to me right before the gate. "What are you up to?" She asked for it out of breath. I held out the envelope and took back something that wasn't important. She opened and closed her mouth a few times. "It's not what you think it is." I laughed. I really laughed, which felt unusual coming from me. "That's exactly what I think." Then she reached out and took hold of my wrist. Not too forceful or pulling me back, just enough to stop me from taking another step. Her hand shook a little. I could see how tense her jaw was. The way her meticulously done makeup was already starting to wrinkle at the corners of her eyes. I don't think she thought I would really depart. Not like this at all, and definitely not with the envelope in hand. "You're making a scene," she remarked, looking around at the guests who were starting to murmur. I looked at her, truly looked at her. The lace on her dress sparkled in the late afternoon sun, delicate and perfect. She had always dreamed of a huge wedding. I remembered how she used to cut up bridal magazines when we were kids and glue them into a notebook called Someday. I think a part of me was proud and happy to help make that someday happen. But now, standing on the edge of her dream, I felt like I had been written out of the story. Maybe a footnote or an asterisk with no explanation. "I'm not making a scene," I said, my voice even. "I'm leaving quietly." That's what non-essential guests do, right? She winced but didn't let go. It was Jordan's idea. He said we couldn't afford a big reception for everyone, and that's why I gave you the money. I replied, holding up the envelope. "So, you could afford it." She opened her mouth again, then stopped. I saw something flash in her eyes. Guilt or maybe anger. I wasn't sure. She lowered her voice to almost a whisper. He thought it would be better to just invite people who are part of our lives now, our inner circle. The words hit harder than she probably meant. Right. I said slowly. So, that doesn't include your brother. Her grip loosened just slightly. Nathan, come on. You're being dramatic. That word, dramatic, like I was overreacting. Like it was silly of me to be hurt by being labeled ceremony filler. I pulled my wrist from her hand and tucked the envelope into my jacket. I said, I hope the hairstylist gives a good speech. Maybe she can thank the florist for raising you. Her mouth dropped open, but no words came out. I gave you that money because I love you, I said more softly now because I thought I was part of your story. But if all I ever was to you was a wallet with a last name, you're not just marrying the wrong man, you've become the wrong sister. She flinched as if I had hit her. People were watching. I could feel their eyes on me. Some were curious, some were awkward, and some were just plain happy. They were all waiting for the drama to start. I looked at her one last time, then turned toward the parking lot. The sun was setting, and long gold shadows were falling on the pavement. I walked slowly and carefully, and each step felt heavier than the last. When I got to my car, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from my mom. What did you just do? She's crying. Come back and apologize before you ruin her day. I stared at it, let the screen dim, and put the phone back in my pocket. I didn't answer. Instead, I sat in my car for a long time, watching the guests come into the hall and the essentials. I could hear laughter in the distance. I thought about the toasts, the dancing, and the first slice of cake. I imagined Zoe looking around and not seeing me, realizing too late what she had given up. And for a moment, I did feel guilty, not because I'd left, but because I'd spent so long believing I was lucky to be included, when all along I was just convenient. I drove off into the twilight with the envelope on the passenger seat beside me, unopened. That night, the texts kept coming from Mom, from Jordan, from 2 of the bridesmaids. Some angry, some pleading. One of them even tried to say that Zoe didn't mean to hurt me and that I should have talked to her in private and that I embarrassed the family. But the most shocking message came from Dad at midnight. It said, "You were right to leave." That's when I knew I wasn't crazy. I wasn't being dramatic. I was just finally done pretending I was welcome in a place I clearly wasn't. But then something else happened the next morning that I wasn't ready for. I woke up to over 20 unread messages. At first, I didn't even want to check them because I thought they were more fallout and more finger-wagging from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Suddenly, I wanted to defend Zoe's big day like I'd been there through the silence, the exclusions, and the little humiliations that led to the wristband. But one name stopped me, Uncle Ray. Uncle Ray isn't really my uncle. He's my dad's cousin, but everyone calls him Uncle because that's just how it's always been. He was the only adult who really noticed when something was wrong when I was growing up. He was also one of the few people I could always trust. He was quiet, observant, and always watching from the edges, but he never got involved unless it was important. So when I saw his name in my notifications, I tapped it. His message was simple: "Can we talk? I think you should know something." That was it. He didn't lecture me or make me feel bad. He just quietly invited me. I called him 20 minutes later, still groggy, with the sun barely rising over the horizon. His voice was steady, like it always was. The kind that made you listen even when you didn't want to. "I saw what happened yesterday," he said. "I saw you walk out with your head up. I just wanted to let you know that you weren't imagining it. You weren't being sensitive or wrong." My throat became a bit tight. "Thanks. I guess I needed to hear that." He responded, "That's why I'm calling. That money you handed Zoe is strange in some way. You didn't just pay the DJ, did you?" I scowled. "No, I gave her 5,000. He told her to use it for whatever would help the most." "What?" He exhaled slowly and deliberately. "Nathan, that money didn't go to the wedding." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" I overheard Jordan talking to one of his groomsmen. "Apparently, a few months ago, Zoe used your money to help cover the down payment on their new car. She didn't tell you because she thought you wouldn't mind." He said, "Nathan never asked questions. He just gives." My heart stopped. I tried to think of another reason. "That can't be right." He responded, I wish it wasn't. But Jordan said it like it was a joke, like he was pleased of her for being smart. I sat there in shock. That check was a lot of money for me. I had to do extra freelance work to pay for it. I canceled my trip to Madrid and put off dental surgery, but I told myself it was worth it. Helping Zoe start her married life off right was more important than any problems I had. I'm sorry, kid, Uncle Ray said quietly. I wasn't sure if I should tell you, but after what happened yesterday, it didn't feel right to keep quiet. I rubbed my temples to attempt to make